The Arecibo Observatory has been in existence since the 1960s, and it's one of the important structures in the world of science and space tech. A few weeks ago, the whole structure suddenly collapsed, leaving a lot of questions to be answered. What happened to the Arecibo Observatory, and why the sudden collapse? Welcome, dear viewers. Today we'll take a brief look at the history of the Arecibo Telescope and Observatory Complex, and also analyze the reasons for its sudden collapse. If you haven't done so yet, please click on the subscribe button to watch more videos about such futuristic tech. On the 1st of December, 2020, the Arecibo Observatory and Telescope suddenly collapsed. This structure was an integral part of human endeavors in space and mankind's drive to answer questions about it. Does intelligent extraterrestrial life exist in the vast and wide universe, or are we truly alone? Scientists and astronomers around the world have been attempting to answer this question definitively ever since the first space race kicked off, and Arecibo has always been a critical component of it right from the get-go. Being able to work as a scientist or researcher at this installation has been and still is the dream of many a science fiction aficionado. The Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, which is owned by the United States National Science Foundation, has always been at the forefront of such ventures for humanity since its construction in 1963. It would remain the largest and most important space telescope to exist until it suddenly collapsed. The Arecibo Telescope and Observatory Complex initially began life on the drawing board as a design which was intended to be part of a ballistic missile defense system during the start of the Cold War. Plans had morphed by the end of the 1950s for it to be a space telescope instead, and construction work was completed by November 1963. It was a special project because scientists were seeking a powerful radio telescope installed and operated close to the equator. Such a location would allow the telescope to track distant planets and would also allow scientists to perform a deeper study of the aurora borealis phenomenon, which is caused by charged particles in the ionosphere. Structurally, the reflective dish of the telescope is 305 meters in diameter, 51 meters deep, and it covers an area of about 20 acres. It is supported by a triangular platform, which is suspended 137 meters above the dish by concrete, towards which held an azimuth arm and a set of powerful antennae. It was the largest radio telescope until July 2016, when the fast 500-meter aperture spherical telescope was finished in China. Given Arecibo's power then, it soon joined the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence (SETI) program. It was responsible for SETI's first major milestone in 1974 when it broadcast a pictorial message into space. More particularly, the M13 Globular Star Cluster, which is 21,000 light-years away. Arecibo would go on to win 2 Nobel Prizes for scientists and lead to groundbreaking discoveries, namely the discovery of the first-ever binary pulsar in 1974, the first radar maps of the surface of Venus in 1981, the discovery of the first millisecond pulsar in 1982, and most importantly, the discovery of the first exoplanet in 1992. So, why has such an important installation fallen into such a state in which it simply collapsed one day? The cracks first began to appear in 2006, when the United States National Science Foundation decided to put in effect a 15% budget cut across its entire division of astronomical sciences. The Arecibo Telescope and Observatory Complex became one of the first facilities to be affected by this budget cut despite its continued productivity. This budget cut came as part of the National Science Foundation's decision to reallocate funds for new projects such as the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in 2003. The news of budget cuts was not taken well by the scientific community, especially by Puerto Rican scientists for whom Arecibo became a matter of pride. Regardless, the budget was cut from $10.5 million down to $8 million. A second major cut was also scheduled for 2011. When 2011 came, the Nation Science Foundation decided to hand over operation of Arecibo to a new consortium. This consortium involved SRI International, University Space Research Association, and Universidad Metropolitana, among other various institutions. This was seen as a better choice compared to shutting the facility down for good, and the new consortium could seek funding from elsewhere. While initial reactions to this development were those of optimism, management soon proved to be troublesome for the consortium, as the National Science Foundation still had to continue to support Arecibo. NASA even had to contribute to meeting a third of the costs. Things came to a head in 2015 when Robert Kerr, the facility's director of Arecibo, saw it fit to quit his post over funding clashes. It was also damaged in 2017 by the ravages of Hurricane Maria, which complicated the funding situation even more. The University of Central Florida announced a management takeover of Arecibo in 2018 and then helped repair hurricane damage, but this proved to not be enough. The United States National Science Foundation finally announced on November 19, 2020, that all operations of the telescope and observatory complex are at an end. So, we have come to know that Arecibo's funding has slowly and gradually dried up for 14 years since 2006. This was combined with disputes over the exact nature of how reduced funding would be continued that led to the resignation of an executive and finally, the occurrence of a natural, unavoidable disaster. Perhaps more accurately, Arecibo's fall from grace could be described as an example of tension and disagreement between facility maintenance and scientific endeavors. This explanation, while being a sufficient background account for the event, still does not properly make clear to us exactly why the installation collapsed like it did. To answer us, video footage exists that can be analyzed. A drone was able to capture the once-in-a-lifetime event of the collapse as it was positioned right next to the cable support structure that subtended the telescope in place. The drone was placed there to monitor the situation of the cables closely, as it was known among the staff that the cable was suffering tear damage. Large, dark strands were observed on the surface of the cables with wires popping up. An extra cable that was supposed to be there is seen to be missing in the drone footage. This cable was also part of the support structure, which broke in November of last year. All that remained of this extra cable were strands of wire sticking out that are visible in the video. All cables were anchored on the platform with two worn-out bolt mechanisms that was last reinstalled in the 1990s, without any substantial refurbishing work completed on it since then. It was all essentially a ticking time bomb. The drone was able to capture the exact moment when one of the cables suffered a major snap, with a significant part of its wires and structure shooting out. As this occurred, the rest of the stricken cable had to take on the newly redistributed load. Already weakened, the cable could not bear the forces any longer and simply snapped loose from its anchoring socket. What happened next can be described as a domino effect, as the other cables, which were also already weakened suddenly and violently, snapped off. There was another cable, which was the main cable, which was connected to the catwalk on the opposite side of the anchoring cable platform. When the other cables fell and upended the sockets behind the platform, this cable attempted to support the weight all by itself, but it could only hold for a few seconds, wobbling dangerously. Within a few seconds, this cable too violently snapped. This cable snapping sealed the deal for the rest of the structure, as it carried within it the entire force that dissipated into the catwalk. You can see this cable wobble in the video, making a sine wave-like motion. This motion was the transported force that destroyed the catwalk upon which the telescope was mounted. The catwalk collapsed, bringing the telescope crashing down onto the dish. Supporting the catwalk through cables are larger 45-meter reinforced pillars placed outside the dish. These pillars could not bear the strain of the heavy telescope, falling down with such great force. One of the pillars collapsed completely, as seen in the video, and a big chunk of another was taken off. The scale of the crash is horrendously huge. This was once the largest radio telescope on planet Earth, and now it has been completely destroyed. Destroyed because of what, you ask? Video footage shows us that its structure was poorly maintained and badly taken care of. Given that we have already established facts regarding Arecibo's poor funding, impact by Hurricane Maria, and general mismanagement, we can infer that the structure's fall was a direct result of these issues, which led to a general neglect by upper management. We also know that those working on the site were acutely aware of the structure's general degradation and were diligent in tracking the damages. It is unfair to blame everyone involved, with generalizing fingers, for engineers can only perform as much as the budget can stretch. Regardless, the fact remains that Arecibo's loss will go down in history as the greatest fall from grace for the greatest telescope built. For such a historical, important, and impactful telescope, it is very painful to know that it was not taken care of that very well at all. We can only hope that a repetition of such events does not happen with newer radio telescopes. These wonders of mankind should be retired with respect at the end of their service lives for their contributions in pushing humanity towards the endless frontiers of space. That'll be all for today's video, our dear viewers. Let us know in the comments below what you think of this event. Do you think Arecibo's telescope's loss should be mourned and NASA or SpaceX should rebuild it? Or do you think the world should focus on newer telescope designs? If you like this video, you may also enjoy our full playlist on space exploration that is shown in the end screen. And please subscribe to FutureFile for more such interesting videos on futuristic tech.